Okay, everybody. So I'm not going to be in today, but I want you to take a look at what we were going to do. So I'm just going to do it this way via Screencastify. So I want to talk a little bit about intros for these papers that we just started taking a look at yesterday. So you should have, in theory, picked a paper topic that you want to do. You should have a working thesis statement for it, and you should have a beginning of an idea of what you might use from the play in order to back that up. So I want to talk a little bit about intros and so, yeah, okay. So intros, I don't know, remember if we talked about this or not. My brain's a little fuzzy right now, but this is the structure I want in an introduction. So an introduction, in theory, sorry, multitasking. You know how that goes for me. An introduction, in theory, is meets the person out in the world in which we currently live. You're starting out in the real world, and you're moving into eventually the world of the analysis. And the way you do that is you start with a hook. So the hook is real world context for what it is you're going to analyze. Information on its most basic level is just author and title. But the bigger thing is here is to move from the hook to the book. You have to show me the connection between what you just talked about in the hook and move that into the concept of the book. Supplemental information is context from the story needed in order to set up your thesis. And then your thesis, you know what that is. So by doing that, you meet people out in the real world where they are with this concept. You connect the concept to the story. You give the background parts of the story that you need, and then you move to your thesis. So you're getting more and more specific as you go. This is the outside real world. Now you've gone into the book. Now you've gone into the parts of the play that you're going to focus on, and now you've gone into the thesis. So this is an example. So this is the 1977 question. So here it is. Born on the same day, the pair of twins walk side by side down the pathway of their lives. Photo albums are filled with pictures of them together for their first day of school, their first game of Little League, their first prom. They progress through classes and social ranks together. Side by side, one is taller and better built. High school transcripts reveal one to be clearly smarter than the other. One is more popular, one more courageous. With the events of their lives running parallel, comparisons and judgments are unavoidable. So that's the hook. So you see, that's if I highlight that, it's almost half of the paragraph. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's too long. But you see underneath there this idea of trying to go for this concept of with their events of their lives running parallel, comparisons and judgments are unavoidable because side by side, people are looking at them and comparing them. Like Fortinbras and Hamlet, Laertes and Fortinbras. I mean, Laertes and Hamlet will be getting to that. So the information part transitions from the hook to the book. Shakespeare uses the same inevitability in his play, The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, by juxtaposing his protagonist's actions against those of several other characters. So that's the transition from the hook to the book. Same inevitability, referring back to the hook, connecting it to what's going on in the play itself. Then it's the supplemental information, where I give you some background information needed to understand what I'm talking about. Hamlet's father is wrongly killed, spurring him to revenge. The same is true of Fortinbras and Laertes. Hamlet appears to have gone mad, while at the same time, Ophelia succumbs to insanity. The parallel lives of these literary foils draw attention to Hamlet's own actions. And then my thesis. Through the inclusion of these parallel events, Shakespeare is able to illustrate his title character's tragic flaw, that of inaction, and define him as an anti-hero. So there it is. It's got the four component parts. And when we talk about this later, you'll see the scoring process here. But so that's number one. So over here, hang on, let me make sure this Screencastify is pulling it up. Over here is a revised version of it. Sorry, okay. So this is all highlighted over here, and it says this idea, whoops, let's see if I can see this. This idea works conceptually, but takes too much time. The hook should simply get attention through a real world example and then move on. Don't get lost in it. So what we're doing here is, what is happening here? Pause. Okay, got it figured out. So what is going on here is, you see up here, this stuff in yellow, green, teal, red, pink. The parallels to down here. So this is an example of the revision process because I keep harping on you guys about the need to revise the stuff that you're writing. And, and looking at soliloquy papers, the ones that are scoring best, I go back and look at revision of history. And sure enough, people have really worked their way through that revision process. The ones that aren't scoring so well, I go back and sure enough, it was written in a day. So you have to look at this. This hook takes too long. So what I do is I go down here and I say, born on the same day, the pair of twins walk side by side down the pathway of their lives. Same line. But then the rest of it I compress. Photo albums are filled with pictures of them together for their first day of school, their first game of Little League, their first prom. One's taller and better built. The other is smarter or more popular or more courageous. So that part in gray there used to be side by side. One is taller and better built. High school transcripts reveal one to be clearly smarter than the other. One is more popular, one more courageous. And all I've done is I've said the same thing, but I've said it in a much more concise way. I could probably still make this more concise. With the events of their lives running parallel, comparisons and judgments are inevitable. The other thing I've done here is I'm trying to transition from the hook to the book in this sentence. So rather than say unavoidable and inevitability, I've matched the language up more directly. I've said inevitable and inevitability. So that language helps pull the reader from the world of the hook into the world of the analysis even better. Shakespeare uses the same inevitability in his play, The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, by juxtaposing his protagonist's actions against those of several other characters. And so then up here I had Hamlet's father is wrongly killed, spurring him to revenge. The same is true of Fortinbras and Laertes. If you think about that, that's incorrect. So that's what I wrote, my first draft. And it takes really going back and testing what's on the page to figure out that's not an accurate statement because the same is not true of Fortinbras and Laertes. It's actually totally different. Because otherwise that would mean Hamlet is actually going and getting revenge just like they did. So I've gone and refined that. And I've said Hamlet, Laertes, and Fortinbras all have fathers whose deaths they hope to avenge. That's true. But only two are quick to act. That's much more directly what I'm trying to say. The action of Laertes and Fortinbras draws attention to the inaction of Hamlet. That is an infinitely better progression than what I had there the first time. This thing in red about Ophelia, Hamlet's madness appears fake when compared to the insanity of Ophelia. Again, it's a more direct, Hamlet appears to have gone mad while at the same time Ophelia succumbs to insanity. This, Hamlet's madness appears fake when compared to the insanity of Ophelia. That's much more direct about what is happening. The parallel lives of these literary foils draw attention to Hamlet's own actions. There's no need for that. So I just cut it out because I'm trying to be as concise as possible. So that's the idea here in terms of what you need to be doing with an introduction. So let me just check my notes here as far as where we're going the next couple of days. So what I want you to do today is with that knowledge in mind, I want you to write an introduction for the paper that you're going to pick. So you should have already a working thesis. And I also clarified the thesis here a little bit, I think. Did I? Parallel to illustrate his titles, characters, tragedy, flaw, that of an action, define it. No, I left that alone. That's why it's not color-coded. Look at me. So use your working thesis and then build around it. Make sure that your thesis follows that structure that I showed you on the first one. So go back over to here. You probably don't see here yet, but it's coming. Go back over to here and consider the hook. You need a real world context. You notice in that opening when I'm talking about these imaginary twins, I'm not talking about the play. I'm just talking about twins in the world in which we live. That's my point. And then from there, I'm moving into the book when I say, the same inevitability happens here. Then I provide you a little bit of context, Hamlet versus Laertes and Fortinbras, Hamlet versus Ophelia, and then I give you my thesis statement. That's the progression you're trying to work through. You need to have that for class on Wednesday. You need to have a completed introduction for class on Wednesday. Okay, there you have it. Bye.